So, information security. My name is Gary Scobie. I'm the Deputy Chief Information Security Officer for the University of Edinburgh. I'm based in the Information Security Directorate, which is part of Information Services Group. However, my remit stretches across the entire university. I'm not just there for information services, but for all of the schools and colleges and business units across the university. If you ever need to get in touch with me, that's my email address. And the team mailbox that's manned by myself and my colleagues is informationsecurity@ed.act.uk. So if you have any queries about information security or any concerns, that's the place to go to. My agenda for today, I'm going to give you a high-level overview of mobile phones and give you some examples of threats. I'm going to provide some top tips to consider regardless of device. I'm not going to talk about the pros and cons of either having an Android phone or an Apple phone. These are top tips which are generic. And my intention is to raise awareness of mobile security and hope you know today you'll be a bit more aware about your security regarding your mobile phone. Now, when I put this word cloud together about all the kind of things that you can use your mobile for, it wasn't until the first morning I was actually giving this session a little while back that I realized I hadn't included keeping in touch with family and friends on this slide. Because that's something we use our mobiles for, but the amount of uses that we have for them these days is quite astonishing. You know, you can keep your productivity apps on there, you can take pictures, you can use them for payment, for e-tickets. Back in the days when we could breeze through airports, you could just show everything on your phone, which was marvelous. So a huge amount of different capabilities that are now apparent on such a small device. And the different data types, when you think about what you store on your phone, you have your text messages, WhatsApp messages, for example, call records, any phone calls you've made, logging, all that is stored. There's the browsing history, stuff that you look on the web or on Twitter or on Instagram. All that stuff is logged on your phone. You have your emails. Most people tend to read their emails on their phones. Images, pictures, lists of contacts, people you know, their details, contact details stored there. Wi-Fi details, where you've connected, which Wi-Fi's you've connected to, which cafes you've been in, the locations, all that kind of data about you and your daily life is stored and contained within inside your mobile phone. Now, there's been a kind of blurring of space between home and work and between your studies. This work-life balance is something you need to consider about mobile technology. It's resulted in lots of personal data being stored on your phone and also work, study, research data also being stored on the same device. The use of social media, both for personal use and for work and for study and for research, has further blurred the lines between personal data and work, corporate, enterprise data. On top of that, these devices that we're using every day are increasingly complex and more powerful. The amount of processing power that a mobile phone stores is phenomenal compared to early computers. As a result, and all of these uses, whether it's for buying stuff, paying for stuff, e-tickets, all the personal information you store there, these devices are now storing a huge amount of data about ourselves and our personal lives. And unfortunately, all of that does make them a target for hackers. In conversations I have with other security firms, they're now seeing this as a growth area, that because of the amount of personal information that is held on mobile phones, they are ripe for attack and compromise. So how are mobile phones exploited? I think the first thing to think about is Wi-Fi. We all use it, we all love it, but by default there's no encryption. An awful lot of traffic on mobile phones, a lot of communication is done in plain text and can be picked up. So my first point I want to make here is that you need to use a VPN, a virtual private network. Now, this is a mechanism by which you can load up VPN software on your phone and you can create a secure connection between yourself and, for example, your Office 365 Outlook email. If anybody is round about, if an attacker is in the near vicinity trying to capture the traffic from your mobile phone, they won't be able to read what you're doing. That's what a VPN is all about. It's all about encryption. It's all about giving you a secure connection to whatever services you want to interact with. That gets round this whole issue of rogue Wi-Fi access points. It's very easy for attackers and cyber criminals to set up Wi-Fi access points on their own devices and attempt to redirect you to their device rather than the coffee shop Wi-Fi you may be thinking about connecting to. So that's something to think about. Using Wi-Fi is great, but I would like to see everybody using VPN technology in order to make themselves more secure. The operating systems as well, they can be vulnerable to coding flaws, to attack the apps that you download onto your phone. A lot of application developers are under pressure to deliver to market. So speed is of the essence there. And we have found in previous years that a number of applications that have been produced for mobile phones have not had security in mind, or they have been built with known security vulnerabilities embedded in them. This happens as a result of developers lifting publicly accessible code from websites and incorporating that insecure code into their applications. So it's really important to think about the applications, and I'll say more about this later, about making the point that it's important to download mobile apps from your recognized stores, whether that's Apple or Google or Play Store, because that is extremely important. You've got a better chance then of having a properly secured app. Your phone's also vulnerable to you as the user itself. You can be clicking on websites, you can be clicking on posts within social media, within Twitter, for example, and your phone can be redirected to websites which are already compromised with viruses and malware. As a result, you can inadvertently download code onto your phone, which could be ransomware, it could be spyware. It could take remote control off your phone. So it's very important to appreciate that your phone is as vulnerable to attack from that method as your laptop is. There's also phishing email attacks. Phishing attacks is when an attacker will send you an email with a link or an attachment, hoping you will either open the attachment or click on the link to go to a compromised website to give up your credentials. You're just as vulnerable to attack on your phone from interacting with a phishing email as you are from your laptop. It's the same with SMS text messages. I've given you a couple of examples there. These are some text messages that have come into my own personal phone. There's one about Revolut. I've actually got a Revolut account. And when I saw that on a Friday night, I thought, oh, what's happened here? But, I know that's not the Revolut website. That is just a rogue website designed to trick me into going onto their compromised website and giving up my credentials. A DHL Express, apparently I was getting a delivery from matchesfashion.com that day. Again, it's an attacker trying to get me to click on their website in order to interact with me and potentially steal my data or take over my phone. Again, the HSBC. I know I don't have an account with the HSBC, but the attackers don't know that. But they sent me the text anyway in the hope that I would have an account and then click on that link in order to give up my credentials. So it's important to appreciate that text is very old school. It's where phones started over a decade ago, but it is something which is still very, very common today. In fact, I think that example there was the 31st of August this year. So it's a real attack, and it's going on a regular basis. Saying more about open Wi-Fi networks, Auto Reconnect is great. You know, if you've been in one site, maybe having a coffee someplace, and then you turn up the next day and you've been on the Wi-Fi and your phone auto reconnects to that, and it makes it nice and easy for you, and that's fine. But it is important to appreciate that hackers can pretend to be those open networks using their own devices. I have seen people's phones who have been compromised, and when you look at the history, you'll see they had been in a hotel, and the hotel network, the one they had connected to, had an underscore at the start of the name. Wasn't the real hotel network, but it was an attacker pretending to be, and they can put underscores, hyphens, spaces. So it's really important to appreciate that when you are connecting to open Wi-Fi, that you do know the Wi-Fi you're supposed to be connecting to, and your phone is connecting to that particular Wi-Fi that you need to connect to. And again, as I said before, use a VPN. When I do this talk live in front of real people in a real room, I ask the question of the audience, who is using antivirus on their mobile phone? And I put my hand up, but very often, lots of you don't put your hand up. Now, you'll be running antivirus on your laptops, I hope, and that is normal these days. But I'm surprised how many people don't actually install antivirus onto their mobile phones. So that's something I think you should look at. It will help prevent unwanted downloads to your phone. It will scan your applications to make sure that they're not containing malware. My protection on my phone has stopped me connecting to rogue hotel Wi-Fi. In previous years, it's detected the Wi-Fi as being dodgy, so it's alerted me and advised me not to go ahead. So they're really useful tool to have on your mobile phone, and gives you a good layer of protection against the more common attacks. Mobile applications. You really shouldn't download anything onto your phone unless it's coming from the official stores, whether that's Apple or Google, because that is the best way of avoiding rogue software coming down onto your phone. Okay, now I know you like apps, and I know you like to download all sorts of things, but I do have to say that you stand a better chance of not compromising your mobile phone if you're using official apps. So again, that's something to think about, and always make sure that if you do follow a link someplace for an app that you've seen advertised, that link does actually take you to the official store and not to a website pretending to be that official store. And you'll be able to tell that by the URL that you're actually connecting to. Security versus convenience. I get that mobile phones are really easy to use, but is this ease of use? You know, I want to ask you the question, are we sacrificing security and privacy for convenience? I think it's a nonsense that terms and conditions, the way they're presented, you don't have time to read through sometimes potentially hundreds of screens worth of terms and conditions in small print, explaining to you what the app is actually doing with your data, and what data it may be sharing with other apps, and where that app may be sending that data to. I don't believe that all because a company gives you terms and conditions and you have to click OK in order to proceed, that they somehow told you what's going on, because they haven't. And this is a problem for the computing industry worldwide, that we do need better clarity on what apps are doing. So I get that. But I would encourage you to look in your phones and to look at the permissions. I remember I downloaded a timetable train app a couple of years ago, and it wanted permission to my contacts and my photographs. And, you know, I thought, why? Well, I know why. It's just easier for developers to design their app. If you give it all permissions to everything on your phone, then it installs quite easy, and it just makes it easier. It's quicker to develop. So I would encourage you to go into your apps that you have, look at the permissions and decide whether those apps do actually need permission to your camera. Do they need permission to your sound? Do they need permission to your phone call logs? Do they need permission to your contacts? Because I think it's really important. And the more you get used to that kind of thing, then you can make informed decisions about whether you're happy for a particular application to have access to other parts of your phone or not. So I think that's really important. The annoying thing certainly with some models of phone and operating system, they keep moving these options about. And I've seen this for many years now on laptops and mobiles. So really it's just a matter of getting to know your phone, find out where the settings are, and then going through them. It takes time, I get that. Passwords. It seems like every service you sign up for these days, you need to have an account and a password for. Everybody wants an account and a password for absolutely everything. And it's difficult. So I would encourage you, always use different passwords. Don't use the same password for everything. Because if that password is ever compromised, an attacker can use a technique called credential stuffing, which basically means they try that username and password against all other sites that they can find to see if they can log in as you with that password. So use different passwords, use unique passwords. Do not leave your passwords lying around. You know, if you are going to write them down, and I'm not saying that's a bad idea, but don't write them down in a book and leave that book lying around. Okay. I would encourage you to use LastPass, which is a password manager that the university provide free for all staff and students. That takes out the pain of having to remember complex, unique passwords for all your applications and the services that you use. And it's a really, really good thing to be doing, and it will help you to certainly make you more secure. Two-factor authentication is a really good option. There's been a lot of talk about WhatsApp hacks in recent months. I imagine most of you on this call use the WhatsApp utility or something similar. So WhatsApp has the ability to set up a PIN for it. And that's a really good thing to do. And it's the same for the likes of Facebook or Twitter. You can set up two-factor authentication. What that means is that when you log into the service, a code is sent to your phone, and then you have to tap that code in as well. So if an attacker somehow gets your username, for example, your email address, password, then they still will not be able to log into that service if it has two-factor authentication, because they still have to have the code that's been sent to your device. So it's a good thing to have, and most of the social media platforms that you'll be using have that ability to turn on two-factor authentication. So I would recommend that you do so. So important tips to remember: lock your phones. Okay. It encrypts the data on your phone, so should somebody ever steal your phone, they won't be able to log into it. And if they attempt then to remove the insides of your phone and put them into another phone, they still won't be able to read the data on the phone because it's been encrypted. So it's a good thing to do, whether it's a password, a PIN, or your fingerprint, or whatever. You should be locking your phones. Install updates and security patch regularly. Your phone will badger you for updates, for security updates. Applications will badger you to do so. Check the update is secure, and then install updates. It's a good way of protecting yourself against vulnerabilities that become known with the applications and the operating system for your phone. So your manufacturer will push out updates regularly, and you should do so. Use the virtual private network, a VPN, as I've talked about, and see about downloading an antivirus product. Some phones ship with antivirus already installed these days, so just make sure you're running it and understand how that works. I would back your data up regularly that you've got on your phone. I don't know if anyone on this call has had to rebuild a mobile from scratch. I've had to do it, and it takes a long time, and it's certainly made a lot easier if you have good backups and you know what's on your phone and you know what data's on your phone, and how to get at it. It's surprising how many people just have the one copy of, say, a photograph, an image on their phone, and that's it. There are lots of free cloud services, and you can sync. I use OneDrive, for example, for syncing my data, my photographs that I take up to the cloud. So it's something to think about. Just think, if you were ever to lose your phone today, or it was just to stop working, what would that mean for you, and how would you go about getting yourself back to the previous state? Also, download approved apps from official marketplaces. Don't download apps from rogue websites that somebody sent you a link for. That is a recipe for disaster, and I would advise not to doing it. I would encourage you to sign up for further security awareness sessions, because I talk for a lot longer on this particular topic, and I'm talking again on mobile security on that sort for an hour later on this term. And we do, within information security, we do other talks on how to avoid phishing scams and how to deal with ransomware, and even a talk on cybercrime in the movies, which is one of my favourites that I do. And you can follow us on Twitter as well for any updates, any security updates and information we think is important for you to know. We're fairly low maintenance. We will not spam you or tweet you every hour of every day about stuff. It's only when it's really important, and so we're quite circumspect in what we tweet out. And that is all I have for you for this morning. So I would like to thank you for attending. And if there are any questions, I am here for the next little while to take anything that you have. Thank you.